Hades, Annwn, Naraka, these are all different names for the underworld. Cultures around the globe and across time have pondered its existence, and some have even found entrances to these darker realms. So, today we're counting down the top 10 terrifying doorways scientists believe lead to hell. Take your jackets off because it's about to get hot in here. Number 10. Plutos Gate. Located in present-day Turkey, the ancient city of Hierapolis was once ruled by the Roman Empire and was recently rediscovered by scientists. This city was well known and documented in ancient Roman texts and is home to the plutonium. No, not the radioactive element. It's a gate for the god Pluto, the Roman god of the underworld. In the heart of the town lies a temple dedicated to Pluto and happens to exist on top of one of the region's most geologically active areas. And a deep fissure that leads under the temple was most likely the origin for the Roman belief that this place was an entrance to the underworld. They built a gate into the walls that led into an open arena, and every day at dawn a thick fog emanated from the fissure and covered the floor of the arena. Priests believed that this meant sacrifices needed to be made to appease the god, and so they would lead bulls and other animals down into the pit, expecting to sacrifice themselves along with the animals. However, the priests always returned, while the animals did not. Scientists have now discovered that the fog is actually CO2 gas, and that this is what killed the animals: asphyxiation. The priests were spared simply because the lethality of the gas dissipated as it got higher in the air. So, since they were taller than the animals, they walked away alive and well. So be careful visiting if you're vertically challenged. Number 9. Gate to Hell, Columbus, Ohio. While this is not quite a gate to a mythological realm, as a proud Canadian I had to include it simply because it exists behind a Tim Hortons, one of Canada's most important institutions, and there aren't many of them in the States. This creepy tunnel is adorned with all sorts of sinister graffiti and is a well-known spot for people looking for a spooky time. Originally a drainage tunnel, it leads into pure darkness and has since been closed off to the public after getting another nickname, the Blood Bowl. In the 1980s, the tunnel was a well-known skateboarder's dream, or a nightmare for some. The curves of the tunnel allowed for some sweet riding, and with enough speed, you could even make a full loop inside. One person allegedly died while performing the trick, and after that, the tunnel truly earned its new moniker. So, the next time you're in Columbus getting your double-double from Tim's, take a peek behind the building at the gates of hell. Just don't get too close. Now before we move on, hit the like and subscribe buttons if you're enjoying the video so far. Number 8. St. Patrick's Purgatory, Ireland. This next entry on our list has quite an interesting past. St. Patrick is credited for converting most of Ireland to Christianity, but it was not an easy task, and one day he prayed for guidance from his God to help him in his quest. St. Patrick was then visited by Jesus himself. While that is something that could be quite remarkable on its own, he then took the saint to a secluded pit or cave, the lore is kind of murky on this one, and showed him the entrance to Purgatory, a place of nothingness, and in between for those stuck between heaven and hell. It's mentioned in texts as early as 1185 and is still a place of mass pilgrimage for those who believe that the area has holy powers. Speaking of pits into nothingness, let's talk about number 7 on our list, Hosuka Castle in the Czech Republic. In the 13th century, travelers from a nearby village came across something odd on a hilltop. A large pit that seemed to go on forever. They dropped things down the hole and never heard anything hit the bottom. And investigating further, the townspeople decided to lower a man down on a rope. But the minute he passed out of eyesight into the darkness, he let out a blood-curdling scream. They pulled him back up as quickly as they could, and when they did, they saw that the man had aged 30 years in a matter of seconds. They then knew that this place held dark and sinister energies. After this, the villagers reported demonic creatures crawling out of the pit, dragging them towards the dark hole and terrorizing the town, even killing some of them in the process. They knew something needed to be done, so they built a castle around the pit. When others discovered the castle centuries later, they thought it was a run-of-the-mill fortress. However, upon closer inspection, they realized that something was off about it. The castle had no outward fortification, no water source, and no occupants. Even the windows were fake. And it became clear that this place was not meant to keep opposing armies out, but to keep something sinister in. Number 6. Cape Matapan Caves, Greece. While ancient Greece allegedly had multiple ways to enter Hades, the Greek version of the underworld, only a few remain to this day. Located in the beautiful countryside, these caves lie under a mountain, on top of which rests a Christian church, which is still used for services to this day. But the church was originally a temple to Poseidon, the brother of Hades, but the temple was converted when the Byzantines arrived. It's said that the caves were used by multiple Greek heroes to travel to the underworld. Orpheus used them on his journey to retrieve his lost love Eurydice from the clutches of hell, and Heracles traveled through to bring Cerberus up from the depths. The caves are filled with beautiful formations of stalactites and stalagmites, and while now partially submerged in water, they can still be visited by boat. Just don't go too far in or you'll find yourself in Hades. Number 5. Darvaza Gas Crater, Turkmenistan. Literally known as the door to hell, this unexplainable fiery pit straight out of a nightmare opened up over 5 decades ago when a Soviet gas drilling operation went awry. Geologists searching for oil fields believed that they had found a huge reserve of oil and began drilling. However, they hit a massive gas pocket and the ground could not support the weight of the equipment, and it collapsed into the crater we see now. The sedimentary rock in the desert was fractured and a shockwave was sent throughout the surrounding grounds, and more craters appeared in the area. The largest hole measures 230 feet across and 65 feet deep, and swallowed the drilling equipment whole. However, the problems for the scientists were not over, as the pocket of natural gas they hit was now escaping through the rock. And what happened next is up for debate. Some say that the gas ignited on its own, and others say that the scientists set it ablaze themselves to burn away the gas, thinking that it would only burn for a few weeks. But since it's on this list, you know that it couldn't be that easy. And now the hole has been burning bright for over 50 years, attracting tourists and even wildlife, with reports of spiders and other small animals throwing themselves into the pit, drawn in by the flames. The local government has recently tasked scientists with finding a way to put out the fires, and so we may see this door to hell closing soon. Number 4. Mount Osore, Japan. Looking at this mountain and the beauty that surrounds it, it's no wonder people were drawn to it. But the active volcano and lingering geothermal effects leave a scent of sulfur and danger in the air, making it fitting of its name, which translates to Fear Mountain. Buddhist monks believe that its beautiful and dangerous nature are of no coincidence, as it perfectly resembles descriptions of heaven and hell from their texts, making it one of the most holy places in Japan. Monks believe that the mountain is where the spirits of the deceased gather and must make a journey. At the foot of the mountain lies the Sanzu no Kawa, the river that flows between life and death. Similar to the river Styx in Greek mythology, and the spirits must first cross it in order to reach either paradise or hell. The river leads to a poisonous lake that surrounds the mountain, another obstacle for the dead, or the tourists, to find a way to conquer. The lake is so poisonous that only one species of fish has ever been able to survive in it. And if you make it through the river and the lake, your climb up the mountain is a trial on its own. Number 3. The 7 Gates of Hell. Located in Hellam, Pennsylvania, which is a very fitting name, these 7 literal gates are said to hold extreme power. 2 versions of this story exist, one involving a rather eccentric doctor who built them himself with the help of dark magic, and the other telling the tale of a burnt down insane asylum for which the records have been destroyed. They say that 7 gates were built in the nearby forest. However, only one can be seen during the day, the rest only being visible at the witching hour. Passing through all of the gates in order would grant the traveler dark powers and open the gates of hell, releasing the terrors that lurk within. No one that we know of has ever managed to travel through all 7 of the gates, perhaps because they exist on private property, or maybe because there are other forces at work, keeping people from opening up hell itself. Either way, a nighttime forest trek here is a bit too spooky for me. Number 2. Fengdu, China. Known as the Ghost City, this series of temples located on the Ming Mountain are as beautiful as they are terrifying. In some Chinese mythology, people moving on to the afterlife must journey to the Ghost City and pass 3 tests, which will decide if you move on to paradise or the underworld. The first of the tests is called the Bridge of Helplessness. The stone bridge is said to be a test of good and evil, and there are 3 arches, and under the middle arch lie demons waiting to judge your soul, the evil being banished to the water below. The second test is the Ghost Torturing Pass, where spirits present themselves to Yanulu Wang, the king of hell, to be judged in a courtyard full of demonic statues. And should he deem you worthy, you then enter the Tianzi Palace, where you must stand on 1 foot on a specific stone for at least 3 minutes. A good person should be able to do this easily, but someone weighed down by the evil in their heart will fall. and be sent to hell. Researchers continue to find new and exciting pieces of history in the temple, allowing them to expand on the lore that is already so rich in history. While this seems like an amazing piece of architecture and beauty, and certainly worth a visit, attempt the tests at your own risk or face the consequences. And finally, we reach number 1, the Gates of Guinee in New Orleans, Louisiana. According to the teachings of voodoo, the dead must pass through a certain part of the underworld known as Guinea. This place is not so much a fiery hell, but more so an in-between plane, or purgatory, that spirits must enter before reaching what they call the deep waters, where they can reunite with their long-lost family. The guardian of Guinea is known as Baron Samedi, a skeleton in a rather fetching top hat and tails. He presides over the realm as well as its gates, making sure that only the worthy enter. These gates are thought to exist in cemeteries throughout the French Quarter, and there are a few theories on how to find them. But the main theory is that the Baron's crucifix-like sigil is actually a map to where the gates are. And if you begin at the tomb of Marie Laveau, a powerful voodoo priestess, you can plot the rest following the stars on the sigil down Canal Street, the last of which would be indicated in the center, a crossroads, where the final gate would be. However, crossing through the gates isn't enough to reach Guinea. You need to do it in order, at the proper time, or risk death, or worse. There's a rhyme that's said to help those who wish to cross over navigate their way through the gates. 7 nights, 7 moons, 7 gates, 7 tombs. Deciphering this should help lead anyone to the other side. I love puzzles and riddles, but I am not touching that one. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you next time.